After years of studying what works in great stories and learning from books written specifically on the craft of writing, I've compiled all the techniques that I've picked up and I've bundled them into a simple template. This template has provided a quick way for me to outline stories when I ghostwrite memoirs for influential people who expect both speed and efficiency. It has provided an easy way for me to make a living doing what I love, writing. Hi, my name is Michael Martin, and I'm going to guide you through the process of writing your story one piece at a time. Alright, so with this introduction, I want to cover some important notes about the rest of this series, because this information doesn't really fit into the other videos. For instance, it's highly important that you watch these episodes in chronological order, starting from the introduction to episode 1 to episode 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. However, when you choose to apply what you've learned is totally up to you. What that means is these episodes are designed and structured to help you learn easier and faster. And skipping around to random videos, it's just going to make it harder. But let's say you get to, episode 6, and it sparks an idea and inspires you to write. Even if you haven't fully fleshed out the information from the previous episodes, and even if you haven't finished the rest of the series yet, it's perfectly fine to follow your inspiration. You can always return for a quick reference. So to clarify, watch all the episodes in order, but when you get inspired, go write. But make sure you come back, because sometimes I get lonely. Throughout this process, we're going to piggyback off of Randy Ingermansen's very effective snowflake method. Randy Ingermansen is an author who coined the snowflake method to help writers structure and create novels in a straightforward way. It's a deceptively simple and useful technique in which you start small and build into something bigger. Just like a snowflake can become a blanket of snow, which can be rolled into a snowball, and then that can be turned into a snowman. In the case of building a story, you start from a wide view, and then you slowly zoom in to the finer details as you go along. I use this method every time I start a new project. It works for me. And you can use this method to build anything really. I'm using it here to explain how stories work. We'll start with broad concepts first, then we'll dive deeper and deeper over the course of about 15 to 20 easily digestible videos. And the reason we're breaking this up into so many different episodes is because if I group them all into one video, it would be like the end of Return of the King. There will be like 17 different endings. It will be way too long and overwhelming, and we want to make this easy for you. So by breaking these up into episodes, it'll be super easy to follow. And you will pick up tricks faster because you get to master one section at a time. Now let me tell you why what I'm about to teach is important. Sometimes when writers hear about story structure, they roll their eyes and the flesh melts off their bones. I don't recommend that. Look, at first story structure looks like paint by numbers. It looks like the creativity is being zapped away. It comes across boring. I totally get it. Formulas don't always have the best reputation in the creative community, but formulas exist because they work. They are effective. If you've ever tried to use a formula before and you didn't get the results you were looking for, it isn't because you're dumb or lazy or you didn't work hard enough. It's probably because you needed more feedback, which is exactly what I'm going to give to you. I'm your coach. And the great thing about this story structure is that when you apply it into your own writing, you'll find something surprising. You'll find that once you bring your own vision and creativity into it, the story structure magically disappears. It vanishes. It goes away. It'll still be present in your story, but you just won't see it. It's like a skeleton. It provides the form and foundation, while your creativity is the skin that covers the bones. Your vision is the personality that drives the meat bag. No one sees the skeleton until they cut the body open. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that metaphor. And regardless of the formula, your story can move as leisurely or as fast-paced as you decide. You're in full control. The purpose of this structure is simply to make sure your audience feels something. And that's kind of the point, right? If you're going to invest all of this time and creative energy into a project, You want to make sure your audience feels a powerful emotional experience instead of just feeling meh about it. Dan Harmon, creator of Community and Rick and Morty, describes the rhythm of storytelling like this. Why does a story have to contain certain elements in a certain order before the audience will even recognize it as a story? Because our society, each human mind within it, and all of life itself has a rhythm. And when you play in that rhythm, it resonates. So how can you apply this? There are many kinds of story structures. 3 acts, 4 acts, 5, 6, 7, even 8. Probably there's a 22 act structure someplace, I don't know. But forget about all of that, no more acts. When I first started writing many years ago, trying to structure my story into acts was so confusing. I just wanted to slam my hand into a car door. I don't want that for you. We're gonna take a more practical approach and divide our story into milestones. These milestones are things that need to happen in your story in order for it to be an effective story. It makes it easier to think of these milestones as road signs that take you from point A to point B. That's all it is. If you're going to Canada and a road sign says this way to Canada, just go that way. Simple as that. These milestones are triggers. They are distinct moments that cause the story to pivot in some way, large or small. Something happens and causes a change, either in plot or character, or both, because character and plot are not necessarily mutually exclusive. With that in mind, there are character moments and story beats that occur in between these milestones. And that is where you're allowed to get creative with your story. I am not going to tell you how to write those parts of your story, because those will come entirely from your vision. And that's the fun part for you. That's the whole reason you write in the first place. So here are all the milestones we're going to cover in this entire series. Part 1. The setup, containing you, need, the first plot point, and the antagonist. Part 2, the response, containing go, the first pinch point, and search. Part 3, the attack, containing the second pinch point, find, take, the second plot point. Part 4, the resolution, containing return and change. Try not to get caught up in those details yet. This is just an overview before we zoom in and get into the details later. As you follow along, I'm going to describe each milestone to you. I'll tell you what it represents with a little bit of theory. I'm also going to tell you why that milestone is important to your story to help you understand it further. There's going to be quotes from other writers much more famous than me who have spoken on these topics. I always give props where they're due because I stand on the shoulders of giants. There will also be examples from some of the most profitable stories of all time. And more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly how to use the milestone in your project effectively, because that's why you're here. And look, I am not making this stuff up myself. Writers much more wise than me, than I, have written extensively about all this stuff. And just to show you that I know what I'm talking about, here are a list of books on the craft of writing that I've studied. Look, there are certainly many more books out there, some of which I've also read but I did not include here because the books that I've just shown you I've found to be the most useful in learning how to write well. Keyword well, because you don't just want to learn how to write, you want to learn how to write well. I mean, that's the whole point, that's why you're here. And those books have helped me tremendously. I've read them all in full, some more than 5, 6, 7 times. I've highlighted the crap out of my favorite sections, stuffed them with post-it notes, and scribbles in the margin, and I continue to use them as references to this very day. Now all those books pretty much say the exact same thing as each other, just in a different way, which is great because of how our brains learn. We learn through repetition and a scientific thing called feedback loops. It's why you know all the lyrics to that song you hate, because you keep hearing it over and over and over. The same rule applies here. Reading about the same concepts repeatedly helps you learn faster. Other than, actually doing the work, which is an even better way to learn. And eventually you do have to write. I mean, that's kind of the whole point. And if you're a slow reader like me, then well, it's gonna take you forever to get through all those books and to do all of the analyzing and picking out of the great information and organizing it. It just takes a long time. Lucky for you, I've done all the hard work and I've figured out a way to make these concepts even more simple and more practical. I'm going to show you all of the techniques that I borrowed from those books. All you have to do is follow the steps in order. You can't go wrong, and if you do, it's all my fault for doing a bad job of coaching you. And with that in mind, by all means, don't just take my word for any of this. I've listed all of those books so you can go and read them for yourself, just in case my coaching style doesn't fit you. Or if you'd prefer to spend years hustling and trial and erroring your story instead of taking the easier and faster route, it's up to you. Look, the reason I'm making this a free template instead of writing yet another book on the craft of writing is because I'm more interested in coaching you one-on-one. Because studies have proven that those who have mentors advance significantly faster than those who don't. And if I'm going to invest so much of my time teaching all of these valuable skills that I've learned, I want to produce actual real-world results. Otherwise, what's the point? And it's not so much that I'm generous, which I am, but I also want more clients. And the only way that I can achieve that is to actually contribute to your success. Like, I seriously want you to DM me one day saying, "Hey Mike, thank you for all the tips. I followed your steps. I wrote a book that I'm proud of, and now it's getting published." Not only would that warm my heart to know that I actually made a difference into someone's life, it would also prove that my coaching works and will bring me more clients who I can then contribute to their success as well. Everybody wins. And that's why I'm sharing this knowledge for free, paying it forward as other mentors have done for me. My mentors didn't even know I existed, but that's another video. And you can use these techniques that I'm about to show you in any kind of fiction and some nonfiction, such as memoirs. Any genre from short stories to novels. You can use it for screenplays, documentaries, animation, YouTube skits. Anytime you want to tell an effective story. Short form or long form, it doesn't matter. Your story can be 3 minutes long or 3 hours long. This method still works. Alright, that's all the introduction I have left in me. But before I close it out, I just want to promise that the rest of the series is going to have a lot less ranting. There won't be any more ranting throughout the rest of the series. But that's why this introduction is separate. It was to give myself the appropriate space to express my thoughts and concern about this passion for writing that you and I share. After all, expression is what us writers are designed for, right? Oh, and one more thing. There's a phrase that I'm going to repeat a lot throughout this series. Consider yourself warned. Pretty frequently, you're going to hear me say stories are about change. It's all in an effort to worm it into your subconscious like a catchy pop song, because it's so important to effective storytelling. So, with all of that said, I'm super excited to get you started. Let's jump right into it. In the next episode, which is episode number 1, we're going to start small and talk about the setup. The setup is the beginning of your story. My name is Michael Martin. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.